Welcome back to the DNC here at United Center in Chicago. I'm Derek Kennedy, and all week we are giving you the best of the interviews from the best people that we can find, and I am joined by a friend and a colleague and an amazing writer. I guess you're also a law professor or attorney. Like he knows all the things. We're joined by Elie Mystal, who was a columnist at The Nation. He joins us now on set for Politics in Color. Elie, first, thank you for stopping by. I know you're in high demand here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I'm not a professor. I just play one on TV.
Okay, right. Well, we love the analysis that you give because of your background. There's so many things that we want to touch on. The last time that you and I talked, it was pre-vice president candidate.
Pre the switch.
Pre the switch, Kamala Harris. And I know that the things that were on your mind then were immunity, abortion, because that's when Roe v. Wade had just been reversed. But now we've got topics like Project 2025. There's so much that's on the ballot for Americans and especially people of color for November 5th. Where should we start?
Yeah, I mean, you can start anywhere. I always like to start with abortion because abortion is the most, I think, critical issue facing us at this time. The Supreme Court has never taken away a constitutional right until it overturned Roe v. Wade. Now, there's some people in the Democratic Party that are not comfortable saying the word abortion. You know, they're not comfortable talking about reproductive rights. They're not comfortable talking about women's rights. They're not comfortable talking about equal pay. Kamala Harris is comfortable. Kamala Harris is willing and able to put the abortion issue front and center. And so when we talk about the switch, the thing that I probably was most excited about is that now we get to have a campaign that is about this most critical issue from a reproductive rights advocate, not a person who simply kind of pays lip service to reproductive rights to try not to piss people off. So I was very excited about that part of the switch, and I think she's a great person to take this fight to the next level.
And so are you saying that President Joe Biden was full of lip service in terms of protecting the rights of women?
Oh, I don't think I said that exactly.
Okay. The lip service part. The lip service part. Because
look, President Biden, I think, did his best, given who he was, given who he is, given the times that he came from. I'm joking aside, yeah. I'm not trying to criticize him exactly. I'm trying to say that Harris has maybe a stronger foot forward than Biden was able to have on this particular issue, and I'm excited about that. So I'll keep it positive like that.
Well, you know, we can just keep it real here. We can keep it real here because there has been chatter. And especially with the younger voters saying that will President Biden protect us? Will he go and fight for it? Because it is maybe a generational thing, or maybe he would say, well, if you all fight hard and just get the House back, then maybe we can fix this. Whereas
I feel like people in Biden's era, I think Biden to a large extent himself, treated abortion like a sad necessity, right? Like an oops, the cheerleader got knocked up. Oh well, this is what we're going to, as opposed to a fundamental issue of human rights, a fundamental issue of women's rights, a fundamental issue of personhood rights. And that's different than oops, somebody got knocked up. And I think Harris is the person who treats it like a fundamental issue. And that's why I'm so excited about her candidacy. I'm also excited about the fact that when we talk, to answer the second part of your question, really, Harris is particularly suited to beating back the anti-abortion forced birth rhetoric of the Republican Party, especially as it is laid out in Project 2025.
Right. Well, Project 2025. There we go. I was going to try and end on that abortion thing. Well, let me just do that here because as the Republicans, and let's just stop saying the Republicans and let's just say Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the one that says, that they kill the babies after they have them, and they let the abortions go all the way to terms 20-something. It's all insane, ridiculous, and inhumane, and that is not the case. That is not how people have abortions, at least in America. I don't know. He's in this banana republic in his mind. So the fact that you think that Vice President Harris, we know this, and not just because she's a woman.
Not right.
Right, but because she just understands the basic needs of women should have the right to choose.
I just saw Congressman Jamie Raskin. Congressman Raskin is able to make this issue as forcefully and as passionately as Vice President Harris. So it's not just because she's a woman. It's because of what she believes and her fundamental values, I think, on this issue. And to your point about, the kind of lies and the spins that Republicans put on this, I don't think people fully understand just how radical the Republican Party has gotten on the legal issue of choice and abortion in our lifetimes. It was ridiculous to suggest even 20 years ago that any kind of revocation of Roe v. Wade would include taking away the exceptions for the life and health of a mother. It was unimaginable that you would take away Roe v. Wade and also take away the rights of people who are raped or people who have been victims of incest to have their reproductive freedom as well. But the Republican Party has gone so far off the deep end with this stuff that now taking away those exceptions is standard. And they are literally suing in courts to prevent things like the Emergency Medical Care Act from being able to provide life-saving medical services to women experiencing, terminal pregnancies. So the Republican Party is kind of far out to lunch on this, and the Harris Walz team represents what I would call a return to sanity and a return to decency about basic human rights and basic women's rights.
And I know you just got to DNC today, but they did have speakers on the stage, and you've seen it. The young woman who was raped by her stepfather, and if it would have happened today, she would have had to have what she called her parents' kid. The couple who couldn't get IVF treatment, or one that was almost about to die and with her birth, and she couldn't. So people are driving across state lines, and what's on the ballot November 5th? I think it's in 7 states. Is that right? This is on the ballot in 7 states. Now,
just this morning, I saw it on the plane. When I was in the waiting in the gate area. They put it on the ballot in Montana as well, to make it 8 states where they've put it on the ballot to either protect abortion rights or to take them away at the state level. But
can we talk about that last part? Why does it have to go to the state level? Right? And this is your area of expertise, yes, which is why I wanted to talk about this with you, as amongst other things. But why are we pushing this down? Well, let's just keep it on the state level. Is that a sweep it under the rug? What is that approach? Tell us what that means.
So for a long time, when Republicans were arguing against abortion rights, because it is so popular, they weren't saying directly, we're going to take away our abortion rights. What they were saying was, we're going to take away the constitutional right, but let the states themselves decide whether or not there should be abortions. Let it be a voting issue at the state level, right? So California can have one abortion law, Missouri can have a different abortion law, right? Now that they've won that battle and returned it to the states, now the mask is off. Now the teeth are bared. And now you see that their plan was never to let this state and that state decide. Their plan was always to try to ban abortion in as many states and as many places for as many women as they possibly can. They want to, and this is how you've gotten from the abortion argument, which is a loser for them politically, to things that are even bigger losers for them politically, like going after IVF treatments, like going after contraception, which is the next phase of this battle. Again, hugely unpopular, but they want to say that let the states have their own laws, so whether or not you can control your reproductive health and reproductive rights, and literally contraception will depend on which side of the tracks you are, if you're in Missouri or if you're in Arkansas.
Well, these issues impact communities of color greatly. People that depend on these healthcare services. What will Vice President Harris or President Harris do to not only protect the rights overall, but make sure that people that look like us in our communities are protected? Because that's a fearful thought when you're thinking about who to vote for, and if and will you will be protected.
Well, I don't just believe that abortion should be a right, I believe abortion should be free. I believe that it's basic health care that should be free and covered, if not by your private insurance, then it should be mandated by the Affordable Care Act to be covered.
You can call it Obamacare.
Now, currently, we can't have that law. We can't do that suggestion because of a very small yet dangerous law called the Hyde Amendment, which prevents federal funding of anything related to abortion. Because of the Hyde Amendment, you cannot pay for an abortion through Medicare or Medicaid. Well, guess what? The largest percentage of women who are getting abortions are Black and Latino women living below the poverty line who cannot use their Medicaid to get abortion services because of the Hyde Amendment. So the Hyde Amendment, even before we get to Dobbs and Roe, the Hyde Amendment is what is making women pay out of their own pocket for their abortions as opposed to getting it through health care. So you know what happens? According to a recent study, I think it was a 2018 study, according to a study, I forget the actual percentage, but a large percentage of women said they had to delay getting their abortions in order to raise funds to pay for it. But now think about what happens with the states' rights, the abortion bans, right? Because if you don't get an abortion quickly enough, you can never get
an abortion. Well, according to the Republicans, you can.
Right? If you don't get an abortion those first 4, 5, 6 weeks because you can't afford it, then you can never get one, right? So the Hyde Amendment is something that we really have to seriously think about getting rid of in order to make abortions not just a right, but accessible to the people who need them most. It is something that I know that Harris is interested in. I know that President Biden even, for the first time, he was a supporter of the Hyde Amendment for most of his long career.
Half a century.
Of his long, distinguished, austere career. But just recently in the last budget, he actually came out against the Hyde Amendment for the first time in his life. So that was a thing. And certainly, I think Vice President Harris will continue that project of railing against and trying to get rid of the Hyde Amendment so that when we restore Roe, when we restore abortion rights, we're not just restoring abortion rights, we're restoring abortion access.
Derek Kennedy here, joined by Elie Mystal. He is a columnist for The Nation and much more than that, which is why I text him often and say, what are you thinking about this? And he'll say, well, I'm on vacation with my wife, but here's my thoughts. So now that I've got him in person, I'm going to knock all of these questions out. Let's go to immunity, which is something that I know you wrote extensively about as well. Again, we have to stop. You know, President Biden is still our president, but we have to start thinking about the policies and agenda and the forward-thinking process of Vice President Harris, or President Harris, what she will be. What's going to be her take? What's your take on how she will approach immunity of what's left of it?
Well, she won't use it, right? She won't do what the Supreme Court says she can do, which is commit any crime under the books and never get prosecuted, right? Because remember, the immunity decision didn't just apply to presidents, it applied to presidents and vice presidents, according to the 6 conservative justices on the Supreme Court. Look, the immunity decision, I have a friend who writes about law on Vox named Ian Millhiser, and his quote about it was, the immunity decision is like learning that your daughter's 3rd grade teacher gave her cocaine. It makes you realize that you can't trust anything ever again.
Right.
And that's the immunity decision. The immunity decision from the Supreme Court is so out to lunch, is so antithetical to laws. And a lot of people, when they talk about the immunity decision, they don't talk about it as a black issue, right? Because there's only been 1 black president, and maybe there'll be 2, but it isn't something that's not generally applicable to most black experiences. But I like to talk about it as a black issue because it highlights the 2-tier justice system in ways that could not be more stark. You're telling me. Because remember, when we're talking about a president being able to commit crimes, we're not talking about alleged crimes, right? That's not what the Supreme Court says. The Supreme Court didn't say, like, oh, if the president maybe committed a crime, there's nothing we can do about it. The Supreme Court said, this president has absolute immunity for official acts that are crimes. So if the president in his official capacity commits a crime, the Supreme Court says, you can't charge him with that.
Yeah, that's...
Tell me a black person in their job that has ever had that kind of immunity, right? Go find me the brother who's ever had that immunity, right? You know it, you smell it when you see it, you smell the hypocrisy and the unfairness when you see it, and that is that Supreme Court decision. It is awful. It must be stopped. Harris is supporting the amending the Constitution even to overturn this decision. I think you don't amend the Constitution. I think because the Supreme Court got the Constitution wrong.
Right. Well, there's racial undertones to it, too.
I think it changed the Supreme Court.
Well, yeah, it was 6 conservatives. Is, that's a hard thing, but it leads us into Project 2025. We had Byron Donalds on Politics and Color, and I flat out asked him. I said, Byron, please tell us, should black people fear Project 2025? Why is Donald Trump involved in this? And he told me flat out, black people should not fear Project 2025.
Look, this is a brother who thinks that black people shouldn't fear Jim Crow. Because it's better for families, right? So maybe that brother isn't afraid of the right things. But anyway, let me answer the question with facts, all right? Project 2025 has sections for each department and what they want to remake them as, right? I focus particularly on the Department of Justice because that is the top law enforcement department in our country. And when you read Project 2025 and what it has planned for the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, right? Civil Rights Division. These are the federal laws that allow you to go into various states, various former Confederate states, and apply federal civil rights laws to those old-time Confederate state laws, right? This is what the Civil Rights Division does. This civil rights, people might not like Merrick Garland. The current head of the DOJ Civil Rights Division is a black woman named Kristen Clark, who is unassailable in her competence and commitment to the cause, right? So what is Project 2025's plan for the Civil Rights Division? Not just to gut it. Gutting it would be too easy for them. No, they want to metastasize it. They want to transmogrify it into a division that sues for the civil rights of, wait for it, white folks. They want the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, they say it in the project, they wrote it down, that they want the Civil Rights Division to sue employers who hire black people and brown people because of diversity initiatives. They want to sue for white people's civil rights, for a violation of white people's equal protection clause when there are empowerment zones or contracts that are set aside for black-owned businesses. They want to put the Civil Rights Division on offense for white supremacy as opposed to its current job playing defense against white supremacy.
So yes, black people should fear Project 2025.
I'm just saying that scares me at some point.
That's
the
right.
idea, because remember, when they're talking about suing people for hiring black people for diversity initiatives, that means hiring a black person.
Period.
Because the way that the right wing works, the right wing mind works, every time a black person is hired, that black person was only hired for
Because of
diversity
DEI,
initiative, right?
right.
I write for a magazine called The Nation. I love them. One of the oldest magazines in the country. Started off as an abolitionist magazine. I rep The Nation, right? I'm their only, not their only, but I'm one of their only full-time black writers. All right, just
Were you a DEI hire?
So the Project 2025 version of the DOJ Civil Rights Division allows them to sue my publication for hiring me because I took a job that could have gone to a better deserving white man. That is their actual logic. And it's not only gross and disgusting, it's something that I'm sure Byron Donalds is happy about. I'm sure Byron Donalds thinks that's fine. I'm sure Byron Donalds thinks there are lots of white people who are better positioned to take my job. Probably his too. That's just how he rolls. But it's not how I roll, and it's not how most black people I know roll. Most of us think that we deserved our jobs. Most of us think that we actually had to work harder than the white folks.
Well, we always have to work harder to get
jobs,
where
to get
we're here.
where we are. And the idea that you can sue us or sue our employers for daring to hire us is an anathema, or at least it should be.
And that wraps up Project 2025. This is my friend, but he is also a great writer and legal mind, Elie Mystal. Thank you so much for stopping by Politics in Color. Clearly to be continued.
Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you.